People from all over the world flock to San Diego for our beaches. But they're not just a tourist attraction. They play an integral role in those of us who live here in San Diego. Over the next half hour, we're going to take a closer look at that role and the role that we play in our oceans. It's all coming up in this special edition of Earth 8.
We can make storms, we can make sea ice, we can grow organisms in the ocean.
Causes of reef degradation are man-made, so why shouldn't the solutions be man-made as well?
Life preservation is a little bit more important, and I take the side of danger.
San Diego Blue starts right now. Hi everyone, and thanks for watching CBS 8. I'm meteorologist Evan Nurani, and we're at La Jolla Cove right now. It's a place where an average of 7 million people come to enjoy pristine water and diverse marine life each year. But a new study out of UC Santa Barbara is shedding light on the impact that humans are having on our ocean. I talked with the researcher behind the study about its findings and what we can do to reverse course to preserve places that we love the most, like right here. It's widely accepted among scientists that humans are contributing to a significant change in our oceans. But a new study out of UC Santa Barbara is finding that the change could more than double by the year 2050. Dr. Ben Halpern led the research.
I guess if you are only on the surface of the water and never popping your head under, you may not realize that there are a lot fewer fish and the habitats are not doing as well because of the impact we're putting on them. But all you have to do is pop your head underwater and you'll see things are different, and they will start to be really different in a lot of places by 2050, by mid-century.
The study dives into the combined pressure of things like ocean warming, overfishing, sea level rise, and acidification. It finds that cumulatively, humans are responsible for an alarming loss in biomass in the natural world that will only compound.
The speed at which we are accelerating to much heavier, bigger impacts on the oceans, I mean, mid-century sounds like a long ways away, but it's only 25 years away. And so I think that was what was really, really surprising to me, is how quickly we're going to get to these much higher impacts if we're not careful.
But Halpern says that's not a reason to give up. In fact, he views these models that can essentially see into the future as a powerful planning tool.
So that's the real power of the work we've done, is you get the bigger picture, but then you can pull the pieces apart and really understand what are the main drivers, the causes of that change. And then that's the kind of information that the public, policymakers, businesses, the resource managers can use to hopefully mitigate some of those issues and pressures and make things better in the future.
And while a huge component of that change would need to be policy related, there's still a change that can be made by each individual too.
In a way that's sort of analogous to the research I'm doing, the cumulative effect of all the people individually doing stuff can actually make a huge difference.
The emphasis being that this talk of our future ocean conditions should be used more as a sobering warning than a prescription.
It's a very empowering result in a lot of ways. It's a hopeful result that we can make a difference if we take action.
And that's exactly what San Diego is doing. Experts up and down our coast are using new technology to drive research-backed action, and it's making a difference.
We need to know for them what is happening today that's going to influence them 20 years from now, because it's all connected.
Coming up, inside a redwood building by the sea, UCSD scientists are using a one-of-a-kind machine to unlock secrets about our planet's future.
And then when big events like global recessions or a marine heat wave comes through for a few years, we can see how those populations move over time.
Plus, beneath the waves, the ocean is speaking, and script scientists are listening, using technology to uncover the story of climate change through sound. Welcome back, everyone. Our oceans play a huge role in the forecast, and with the right tools can even help us see into the future. One of the most advanced ocean atmosphere simulators in the world, a giant tank with wind tunnels and wave machines, is right here in our backyard. CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz introduces us to SOARS, a groundbreaking machine that researchers hope could answer crucial questions about our planet and even our health.
Just steps from the waves at UCSD's Scripps Institution of Oceanography stands a decades-old redwood structure where groundbreaking research is replicating ocean conditions just outside.
So this is where all the magic happens, right?
This is the operations room. This is where we control all the various bits of instrumentation that make up soars.
Grant Dean, a research oceanographer at Scripps, has spent 25 years studying seafoam. His research focused on its role in reflecting light into space and producing sea spray aerosols.
It also creates these tiny little droplets called sea spray aerosol. And those tiny particles go up into the atmosphere, and they change the way clouds are formed.
SOAR's, a massive 36,000-gallon tank, provides a close-up view of these processes, something he said satellites simply cannot do. It's also helped researchers study the lasting effects of rising carbon dioxide levels.
And we know that it cycles over a year, but it's steadily going up. That carbon dioxide acidifies the ocean. It makes it slightly more acidic. What is that carbon dioxide going to do to the biology? What's it going to do to the ocean? And what's it going to do to the weather?
With 120 feet of space and a $4 million price tag, SOARS is the only instrument that can simulate ocean conditions from the polar to the tropics.
We can make storms, we can make sea ice, we can grow organisms in the ocean.
SOARS has 4 climate modes, including polar, wind wave, aerosol, and biological, helping scientists better understand the ocean atmosphere boundary, the thin region where ocean meets air.
And you can see with the hurricane force conditions, this population, you were noting it, it really builds up.
Scientists from all over the world book time to use it, testing everything from sea ice to autonomous gliders.
People come in from Poland, they want to make sea ice, they come in for a week or two.
Coastal engineers have also used SOARS to model hurricanes, helping design a concept for a larger simulator to test entire buildings.
It turns out that there are things you can do to buildings, simple things you can do to buildings, to make them resistant to the forces of the winds and the waves.
Dean says understanding these ocean atmosphere interactions has far-reaching implications.
And how does SOARS help the next generation of scientists?
Well, we are unraveling the secrets of this boundary. How important is biology? How does biology impact human health in the oceans and the coastline? What happens in storms? Can we understand and predict better hurricanes? These are the kinds of questions that we're addressing with this machine. We need to know for them what is happening today that's going to influence them 20 years from now, because it's all connected.
Thanks, Vanessa. That's some awesome information about how scientists are innovating to help better understand the relationship between our oceans and our atmosphere. And while this new technology is absolutely helping us see into the future, scientists at Scripps Institution of Oceanography have been tapping into sounds of the ocean off Southern California to understand what's happening below the surface. And as meteorologist Sean Stiles found out for us, researchers say what they're hearing can give them insight into everything from whale migration patterns to slowdowns in the global economy.
When it comes to climate change, we can see it with much larger storms. We can also feel it with heat waves that last longer. But now, in a paper just released from the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, scientists here say they can hear the effects of climate change in the ocean.
So there's what it would sound like if a container ship's going nearby, and that sound's going to propagate really far.
Kieran Lenson is a research and development engineer at Scripps Institution of Oceanography and collaborated on the paper.
So this was a 15-year study looking at climatic and economic factors, looking at soundscapes, sound across the ocean.
The ongoing research listens to natural and man-made sounds in the ocean.
We're able to see blue and fin whales when they come in the area, and then when big events like global recessions or a marine heat wave comes through for a few years, we can see how those populations move over time.
During the ocean heat wave of 2014, a significant number of fin and blue whales left the waters off Southern California.
Those levels decreased by about 50%, but levels at our more northern sites where it's colder water, the fin and blue whale sound levels went up.
Scripps designed and built the equipment.
So this is our hydrophone, so we have a sensor up here, and these are constantly having data, or recording sound, and it's coming down, getting amplified here, and then it gets saved in this. This is what we call our data logger.
More than a half dozen pieces of equipment are located in the Bight of Southern California, collecting data nonstop, which is retrieved every 6 to 12 months. And the hydrophones hear everything.
So this is a great example of noise pollution in the Santa Barbara Channel, and this is happening daily, multiple ships coming through.
Which is how Scripps could hear the slowdown in the economy.
So here in 2008, we hit the economic recession, and this red goes down pretty dramatically.
What the Scripps research does is establish a baseline for the future.
This shows the importance of that 15 years so that we can see these bigger changes.
With over 15 years of information collected from the oceans, the folks here at Scripps will continue to put their equipment in the ocean to listen to the data that it has to offer up. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
And while listening to the ocean can reveal powerful clues about climate change, scientists aren't stopping there.
About 1/4 of all marine life of biodiversity is hosted in coral reefs. At the same time, they are also a powerhouse in terms of the ecosystem goods and services they provide.
The clever new way San Diego scientists are bringing coral reefs back to life.
Habitat we hadn't planned on, but the more the merrier.
Plus a big environmental win in San Diego Bay, from oysters to turtles, how reef balls are creating a thriving underwater community where a power plant once stood. Welcome back, everyone. Walking along the coastline, it might not be quite as noticeable, but inside of the tide pools, like the one behind me, lives entire ecosystems. Small fish, crabs, sea anemones, all of them live in harmony. But one of the close relatives could be under threat. We're talking about coral. But scientists at UC San Diego say that they think they may have created a scent that coral finds irresistible, and it could hold the key to rebuilding the reefs around the world. CBS 8's Vanessa Paz jumps into the deep end with more on the surprising research.
So these are the tanks.
Inside a small and temperature-controlled room at UCSD's Scripps Institution of Oceanography,
We are increasing the temperature in these tanks.
associate researcher Daniel and his team start their day tending to an unusual nursery.
They feed on little tiny particles.
Tanks filled with baby coral.
It's our approach to enhance the growth.
These corals are part of a series of experiments aimed at reviving reefs threatened by warming oceans,
Are they looking good?
pollution, and disease, the main drivers of coral bleaching.
Bleaching is basically a stress response. When coral gets sick, essentially, it loses the main compartment that produces energy. So you can imagine like an engine. And so these are tiny microscopic algae that live inside the animal. And primarily when it gets too hot, those algae are expelled from the tissue. And so then that makes the coral weak and can lead to death.
Now, Daniel and his team have a new tool.
This liquid, especially because when you shine light on it, becomes jelly.
SnapX, a scented gel that can be painted or sprayed onto damaged reefs or even 3D printed attachments like this one, made in their lab.
We try to create an environment that the baby coral likes.
Coral larvae are picky where they settle. They look for chemical cues from healthy reefs. SnapX uses natural chemicals from crustous coralline algae to mimic those cues.
On a degraded reef or an artificial reef, you don't have these chemical signals, or you have less of those, right? You might have signals that come from competitive algae that actually deters the coral larvae from settling. So you get an individual animal from the entire colony.
In lab and field tests, coral treated with SnapX attracted 20 times more larvae than untreated surfaces. It works immediately and lasts up to a month.
We've studied the main reef-building corals in Hawaii and showed that these scents work for this coral, but we have more work to do.
Daniel and his team also developed Coral Guard
to enhance the survivorship of the recruits.
It's a protective coating that blocks harmful competitors from growing over new coral. And they've created a new particle that could reduce coral bleaching by lowering toxic stress chemicals inside the coral. And the best part, all of it, including SnapX, is made with natural biomaterials, essentially taking from nature to give back to nature.
The causes of reef degradation are man-made, so why shouldn't the solutions be man-made? estimate as well. For anyone that has been diving on a reef, you know the beauty. There's a high aesthetic value. Coral reefs are hotspots of biodiversity. About 1/4 of all marine life of biodiversity is hosted in coral reefs. At the same time, they are also a powerhouse in terms of the ecosystem goods and services they provide.
So as you saw in Vanessa's story, the San Diego community is working hard to improve conditions in our oceans globally. But a lot of that work that scientists are doing is making an impact right here at home. Just a couple miles down the coastline, the San Diego Bay is showing promising signs of improvement. And it's all because of what so many people consider trash. We first brought you the story of so-called reef balls a few years ago, but CBS 8's Neda Iranpour is diving into the progress that's been made today.
These are reef balls, 360 of them in the San Diego Bay on the seafloor of the Chula Vista Wildlife Reserve. The former power plant site now home to all kinds of wildlife. And when you look closer, you'll see tiny critters taking up residence inside each one.
We are seeing native and other oysters and barnacles.
This is a project Eileen Maher is proud to share with CBS 8. She's the Director of Environmental Conservation for the Port of San Diego.
You can see all the algae inside, and it holds water at low tide.
We first showed you these reef balls in 2021. They were installed in December that year, made of oyster shells that came from the Carlsbad Aqua Farm. They were smashed up and mixed in with concrete, which includes sand, and formed into these balls that scientists hope will attract tons of new and native oysters.
We brought them in hoping that the natural animals that are in the bay will attach and find a home, and that's what they've done.
Mission accomplished here. Each oyster can filter about 50 gallons of water per day. So when you see a lot of them, just know they're playing a huge role in cleaning the water. When the water's healthy, it draws in more sea life, including fish, which brings in the birds, like the endangered least tern. A few have already arrived for their summer migration to the South Bay and will be nesting soon.
We should point out this is not an area that's open to the public. It's a protected habitat. But we got access here because we want to show you this environmental success story. Also, these reef balls are only visible right now because it's low tide. During high tide, the water would be well over our heads. In fact, that right there is a water marker.
It's during low tide that a lot of animals come out.
A lot of times at low tide, you'll see a lot of birds like right at the shoreline. So they're probing into the sediment, looking for little things to eat, worms, clams.
And there are plenty around the reef balls. Scientists have even spotted octopus.
Habitat we hadn't planned on, but the more the merrier.
Turtles also call this area home.
We do have a resident population of about 60 to 80 sea turtles in San Diego Bay, and they spend about 95% of their time in South Bay.
And the eelgrass, major sequesterers of carbon, are also growing tall in the water right next to this new habitat.
Saw an osprey, which is a large predator, they're 6-foot wingspan, with a halibut, they like to eat fish, sitting on top of the reef ball, having lunch one day.
All of this being monitored for a total of 5 years. They hope their progress is proof that shells that otherwise would have been trashed can lead to environmental treasure.
The port considers themselves the environmental steward of the bay, and so we want to try to do projects like this as often as possible to make sure that the bay continues to increase for all the critters that call it home.
Eileen beaming with pride as she shows us all the positive growth of a project she hopes expands across the state. For CBS 8 in the South Bay, I'm Neda Iranpour.
Neda just introduced us to some of the people making an impact in our oceans. But up after the break, we'll introduce you to one San Diegan who's getting up close and personal just to show us the beauty of Black's Beach.
The place where you want to take pictures are right in that impact zone. And in that impact zone, sometimes the rips can keep you pulling out to sea.
Welcome back, everyone. We've shown you the damage being done to our environment and what's being done to try to fix it. But CBS 8's Sean Stiles turns the tide of it and shows us the beauty of our coastline right here in San Diego.
I'm going to venture to say that most San Diegans have never made their way down to Black's Beach. And if you haven't been, you should come. But if you want to see what you're missing, I was introduced to a photographer, Blair Austin. What makes his photography so unique is he's in the water as a water photographer when the waves are huge. When the winter storms form in the Gulf of Alaska, they send big ocean swells towards the coast of California. And when they make it to the deep sea canyon off Black's Beach, those waves come rolling in, and that's when Blair Austin is in his zone.
The bathymetry, which is like what's going on underneath the water, causes the waves to sometimes double or triple in size.
Judging how big a wave is almost impossible in a photograph, unless you have scale.
But if you see a surfer on it, and let's say they're like 6 feet tall, sometimes you could try to measure it and say, okay, that's a 25-foot wave.
And to get that shot, Austin needs to be right on the edge of where that wave is breaking.
The place where you want to take pictures are right in that impact zone. And in that impact zone, sometimes the rips can keep you pulling out to sea.
Keep in mind, he's doing this all while holding a camera.
Swimming with one arm and with the fins, and it's a very awkward swimming technique because this thing has to just stay there.
To keep his Nikon dry, it goes into a waterproof housing.
And it slides into the housing. There's an O-ring in the housing that keeps it watertight, and when I shut it with the clips, it's now watertight in the housing, and I have some buttons that I can access to take photos and change settings.
Beyond the surf images, Black's offers a stunning look at nature.
So we have a regular pod of dolphins that come through. Sometimes it's from like 5 to 20 dolphins. There's a common bottlenose dolphins. We have the sea lions that come from the cove. We have harbor seals. We have the leopard sharks that come up from La Jolla shores. We have juvenile great whites that come over here, late summer, early fall. There's all sorts of wildlife that you would never expect when you look at it from the beach. And then when you see the water on a clear day, you're like, wow, that's crazy.
And because Black's is off the beaten path, nature can be nature on the land and in the air.
There's also the coyotes that come around. There's the peregrine falcons that live up in the cliffs, and the pelicans and all the migratory birds.
But it's the big waves at Black's Beach that are Blair Austin's bread and butter. So when other photographers are tapping out and saying,
life preservation is a little bit more important, and I take the side of danger.
Even as a kid, what made Black's Beach so extraordinary to me was that we're in this big city of San Diego, yet we're on a beach where it seems like nobody's around. So if you'd like to see more of Blair's images, you can go to blairal.com, and of course I'll have a link on this web story, and you can see what makes Black's so amazing. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
Over the last half hour, we've shown you just how interconnected we are with our oceans, what we're doing to protect them, and why so many people come out to enjoy them. If you'd like to learn more about how San Diegans are making a difference and how you can get involved to protect our oceans, head over to CBS8.com to watch more Earth 8 stories. I'm Evan Nurani. Thanks for watching this Earth 8 special, San Diego Blue.